All right. I am live, so I apologize for some of the lag or whatever else you may be experiencing. I will share my screen momentarily. This is another Rethinking Conventional Wisdom. I just hear stuff over and over and over, and I think maybe we can dive a little bit deeper, ask some questions. You don't have to agree with me. That's okay. Maybe it just makes you think about something. You can like and subscribe and comment and all that stuff. I don't really market this channel. I don't really have a posting schedule. I just say things when they come up, and if I can't get rid of them, I share them. So today we're looking at rethinking conventional wisdom, and we are going to pick on Jeff Bezos in just a moment, who's a brilliant guy, and actually his quote that gets shared a lot, it's a good message, just missing some things. So we're talking about asymmetry. What is a good bet, and which bets should you take? Now, here's the conventional wisdom. The quote: given a 10% chance of 100 times payoff, you should take that bet every time. But you're still going to be wrong 9 times out of 10. I'll tell you what I like about this is it is mostly true. In essence, this is identifying asymmetry. That's all it is, identifying asymmetry. Asymmetric bets are great. Most people are not good at this because they think winning often is good. And it just doesn't matter. So the point here, but you're still going to be wrong 9 times out of 10. That's what people struggle with. It doesn't matter how often you're right or wrong or win or lose. It's not like a sports, it's not like the NFL or the NBA where the game is over, you take the loss. In real life, things accumulate. They roll over. Okay. So if you lose $10 5 times in a row, you lose $50, and then you win $1 million on the 6th time. Who cares that you lost 5 times out of 6? It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It's the size and the impact of the losses and the wins. So asymmetry is a big thing to me. I spent a lot of time honing the skill to develop asymmetry, specifically to the upside. Okay. So this is the positive. This is a great quote. I actually use it all the time. But there's caveats. I want to rethink this a little bit and share the thought process. Okay. Rigging the Game, Dan Nicholson's book. Obviously, I share an office with Dan. He's a great friend of mine. He's a partner of mine. Sitting #1 on Amazon. If you really want to understand asymmetry and see lots of pretty graphics, just buy his freaking book. It's 99 cents for the ebook. Leave a review. Say nice things about him. I'm not going to get deep into asymmetry and identifying it and, symmetry versus asymmetry to the upside versus asymmetry to the downside, all that stuff. Just do the research, read some stuff. It's all out there. Rigging the Game. That's my preference for obvious reasons. Okay. So we're talking about asymmetry specifically to the upside, which means you can play the thing many times. And even if you lose more often than you win, you still come out on top. That's hard for people. Okay, but that's what we're looking for. Can I make a $10 bet? Chance to win 100. If yes, I could play that up to 10 times and it would still make sense, right? I would lose $100 to win $100. That's symmetry right there. Okay, we want asymmetry to the upside. So I want better odds than break even. One of the tools, okay, if we go back to this quote again, given a 10% chance of 100 times payoff, you should take that bet every time, but you're still going to be wrong 9 times out of 10. All right. So one of the tools that we use that can help us sort through, should I make this bet? What if there's 10 or 15 options? Which one's the best one? How do I figure out how to allocate my time, effort, money, resources, all that stuff? It's expected value. Now, expected value is not the value that we expect. People get confused about that, and I understand why. What that means is that we could have the expected value of $5, and we would never expect to get $5. How does that work? Let me explain really quick using the Bezos quote. 10% chance of winning, that's 1 out of 10, or 10 out of 100, or 100 out of 1,000. You can do the math. 100x payoff. So that means if I make a $5 bet 10 times in a row, it will cost me $50. I'm spending $50 to play this 10 times in a row, right? There's a high probability that I will win 1 time, okay, because I got 1 in 10 chance here. That means I win $500. So the cost of the bet, excuse me, the cost of the bet, and this is supposed to be 50. The cost of the bet is $5. Okay? I do it 10 times and I can expect to win 500. That means each bet was worth $50 to me. I spent 5. The expected value is 50, not 500. It's 50. Hope that makes sense. One more time. I bet $5 10 times. So I spend $50 total. Win 500. If I won $500 on 10 bets, each bet was worth $50. That's the expected value. At no point do I expect to get $5. Right? I'm either going to get 0 or 500. But if I was to play it over and over and over and over and over again, thousands of times, tens of thousands of times, hundreds of thousands of times, millions of times, on average, each bet would be worth $50, and I'm buying it for 5. That's a good bet. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. You can look up expected value. You can dive into it. But even though the expected value is $50, at no point do I win $50. I win 0 or 500. It averages out to 50. Hope, again, that's expected value. So expected value is not the value that we expect, but it does inform us what each move is likely going to be worth to us if we were able to do it multiple times. Right? So what if in scenario 1 we have an 83.3% chance of winning a 100x payout? Well, if we take a 10% chance and 100 times payoff, then we'd probably take an 83% chance, 100 times payoff, right? So this quote by Jeff Bezos and expected value calculations tell us scenario 1 is a bet you should take every time. I'm not so sure about that. Scenario 2, what if there's a 98% chance of winning and it doubled your money? Again, the Bezos quote, conventional wisdom, and the expected value calculation would tell us that this is a good bet. That's why we need to go a little bit deeper, and I will tell you why I would not take either of these bets. Okay. Scenario 1 is Russian roulette. Russian roulette. If you lose, you die. Doesn't really matter what the payoff is, right? Now, there are times where it would make sense to make this bet, and I'll explain that in a minute. But expected value is pointless. Okay, the expected value is non-calculable or it's 0 because you cannot play this 10 times in a row or 100 times in a row, or you can't play it more than 6 times in a row, right? So the expected value where repeat exposure cannot be very much without complete ruin or death, completely useless calculation to us. And again, go back to Jeff Bezos, well, you lose 9 times out of 10, but you should still take that bet. Well, you go ahead and play Russian roulette 10 times. Not a good bet, right? So these things are important. Believe it or not, these things are important because there's a lot of ways we risk ruin that aren't so obvious as putting a gun to your head. Okay, now the second scenario, 98% chance of winning, a 2 times payout. Imagine you're at a casino and you learn that 2 out of every 100 people. So here's the rules. You have to bet everything you have. Everything you have. And 98% of the time, you're going to double your money. Again, we're risking complete ruin. Now, maybe you play this one time and walk away. Maybe, but that's not what people actually do because they don't quite understand how to do the math for repeat exposure. So let's say out of 100 people, the third person and the 42nd person lose. That means they lose everything. Okay? So even though 98 times out of 100 you would double your money, you cannot play it 100 times in a row. The third time you play, you'd lose everything. You'd have nothing left to bet. Even if you could double it, it's 0. So I hope that makes sense. Okay? Complete ruin and repeat exposure change the math and the heuristic. Again, you cannot, yes, 98% chance of winning is great, but if complete ruin is the potential outcome, then you won't make it to 100. You won't be able to play it 100 times in a row. You might play it 3 times and be done. You don't get a chance to play it 97 more because you lost everything on number 3. Okay? So, even though it meets the Jeff Bezos criteria and it is a thumbs up from the expected value calculation, it's still not a good bet, especially if you know that you cannot just play it once and get the fuck out. Right? So, complete ruin changes everything. And this is important. Complete ruin changes the math. Good probability does not matter if on the bad side of it is losing everything. It doesn't. It doesn't. Well, I'm going to, I win 7 out of 10 times. Well, you can't play. If you can't play it 10 times in a row, that math doesn't actually work out in the real world for you. I hope that makes sense. And repeat exposure. We have to be aware of the way the probabilities change and the risk of complete ruin with repeat exposure. Just like the Russian roulette example, you can't play it 7 times in a row. And just like the gambling example, you won't be able to play it 100 times in a row. You'll lose it all before then. Changes the math. Okay. So the last thing here is there are scenarios where it makes sense. We hear all the time, and this really bothers me. But Tony Robbins told me to burn the boats if I want to take the island, because that's what Cortez did. Well, kind of. Cortez was told, and I think Dan probably talks about this in his book, Rigging the Game. Cortez was told, if you and your crew come back without taking the island, you will all be murdered. We will kill you all. Okay? So, yes, he burned the boats and risked everything for a small probability of winning. But the alternative was 100% certainty of complete ruin. So, even though it bothers me so much. People use burn the boats. You want to take the island, burn the boats as a reason to take the higher risk road. But the example, Cortez was actually taking the lowest probability of death. If he went home, 100% probability of death. Try to take the island, less than 100% probability of death. It is an entirely different scenario where he wasn't making a bet. Okay? There was no alternative. So, yeah, you play Russian roulette. It's a good bet if the alternative is certainty of death. Well, then all of a sudden Russian roulette makes a whole lot of sense, but that's not really the world we live in. So just be aware that we can't just say these things and not look at the nuances or the details. It doesn't work out very well. Hey, oh, look, burn the boats. That's a boat on fire, obviously. Okay, so conventional wisdom, give a 10% chance of 100 times payoff. You should take that bet every time, but you're still going to be wrong 9 times out of 10. Doesn't work. It doesn't work because so many people will take 3 or 4 bets and risk everything, which means they don't get to take all 10, which is what is necessary for this math to work out in their favor. It's not saying it's going to take 10. You don't win on the 10th time, but you have to be able to take the bet 10 times. You have to take it in small enough amounts that you can repeat it 10 times for this math to actually work out the way it's being presented. So if you only have $1 million total net worth, and you go, oh, well, Tony Robbins and Jeff Bezos said these are good bets, so I'm going to take 4 of them. That's bad math. You had to take 10 for the math to work out. So if we were to revise this, I would say give it a 10% chance of 100x payoff. You should take that bet if you are taking it in a way that you can survive making it 10 times in a row, knowing you're still going to be wrong 9 times out of 10. Very, very different, right? It's not about swinging for the fences if you don't get another at bat. Okay. So that is conventional wisdom revised. Hope it's useful. Let me know on Twitter, in the comments, or whatever. And if you have any questions, I will try to respond to them. But just think about, well, this is a good bet because the asymmetry is so much to the upside. It is only to the upside if you make a bet that is small enough, and it's relative, different for everybody. It has to be small enough that you can repeat it enough times for the expected value to work out to be beneficial without complete ruin. That's all I got.